Good morning and assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope you all are doing good. I welcome you all again to your science class. Now in our last lecture we started unit number 2, Microorganisms, Health and Disease. We discussed in that chapter some food related things like what exactly is a balanced diet, what kind of foods we intake, and how plants manufacture their food. Apart from that, we also looked into types of the organisms like the multicellular and the unicellular, and also I gave you a brief introduction of microorganisms along with their kinds. So now today we would be discussing the kinds of the microorganisms in great detail. Today we would be covering two of the microorganisms amongst the four that I told you yesterday. The ones which we would be covering are the viruses and the bacteria. For the bacteria, we would be discussing the types of the bacteria and good and bad bacteria as well. Moving on towards our first topic, that is viruses. Well, viruses are basically a type of germs and they are quite smaller than bacteria. The biggest feature of virus is that they grow and survive only when they are in the living cells of the organism. That is, when they are outside your body, they are as good as dead. But once when they enter your body, they get active and they start their cycles, and then during that cycle only they will make you sick, right? So viruses actually cause many kinds of diseases like colds, chickenpox, measles, flu, and COVID-19. The one that we are facing, the threat that we are facing these days, that is also a virus basically. Apart from that, they multiply rapidly in warm and moist places, and they are quite harmful to animals and plants and can cause many diseases. Well, let me tell you one more thing over here, as viruses and bacteria. Well, in case of viruses, antibiotics medicines don't work at all. Like any medicine you take, that would only affect that would only ease your pain and will not affect the virus. Whereas in the case of the bacteria, for that the doctors usually give antibiotics, and they kill the bacteria and are quite effective. But in case of viruses, no antibiotics work at all. Now, moving on towards the biggest example of these times, that is the COVID-19. The COVID-19 coronavirus is an example of the virus, and regarding that, you all know very well what coronavirus is. I would like to give you some information here as well. Well, coronavirus is not a new virus, firstly, because it has many forms. It's already existing here. It's basically a family of viruses that can infect the respiratory tract and cause symptoms like runny nose, cough, sore throat, and fever. And there are basically 7 kinds of coronaviruses that can infect humans, The most known ones are the SARS and the MERS, and the third form that has evolved by the end of the year 2019 from China, actually, that was COVID-19, the ones which we are taking precautions for these days. Well, it started from China, as I told you, and it took the whole world into its grip. Now, how COVID-19 spreads? Well, it spreads from person to person through sneezing and coughing, and that is the only reason why we are wearing masks these days. And also it spreads by shaking hands, like close contact. That is the only reason why we are exercising social distancing amongst ourselves. Well, as with all kinds of viruses, no antibiotics, as I already told you this, with all kinds of viruses, no antibiotics or medicines can affect them. Same is the case with the COVID-19. Now, the cycle, as the case with all viruses is that they have a particular cycle. The cycle for the COVID-19 is for 14 days. Now, the biggest thing that we can do is to protect ourselves from these viruses is to clean our hands frequently with soap and water, with alcohol based hand rubs and sanitizers, and that is the only precaution we can. Also, we are actually exercising social distancing, and like that is the only thing we can do to protect ourselves. Well, now let's move on towards our next topic, that is bacteria. Well, what exactly bacteria are? Well, bacteria are very small organisms or the living things. They are made of a single cell basically, and they are microscopic, and they live almost everywhere. Like bacteria live in every climate, any location on earth. Some live in air around us, while others live in water and soil. Now, bacteria live on and inside plants and animals and people as well. Like there are loads and loads of bacteria inside us too. Now, they are much simpler and smaller than all other cells of living things. Now, the bacteria grow and multiply so very rapidly, and the cells of the bacteria basically exist in three basic shapes, that are Cocci, Bacilli and Spirilla. Now let's move on to a very interesting fact about bacteria. Do you know that the bacteria can be good too, as well as they are bad? We would be studying about good bacteria and bad bacteria in the upcoming slide. So, the human body is actually filled with good bacteria as well as the bad bacteria. Maintaining a proper balance is an essential part of our overall health. Now, the good bacteria are also called probiotics. You must have heard about this term in different advertisements for Pediasure and Cerelac. Now, these bacteria are beneficial for your stomach and overall growth of your body. They provide essential nutrients and also help us in protecting the body from the infections. Moving on towards the bad bacteria. Well, bad bacteria are the ones who are up to no good. These bacteria can affect a variety of organs and other systems of the body, and their ways of entering your body also varies. They may enter through food you eat, the water you drink, and the air you breathe. Now, typhoid, meningitis, and pneumonia are the illnesses which are caused by bacteria actually. Now, the cure for the bad bacteria are antibiotics. Antibiotics are drugs that either kill these bacteria or simply stop the growth of them. Now, as we already discussed the good side of the bacteria, let me tell you this, that there are certain uses of such bacteria as well. Yes, some of them are very useful for humans, animals, and plants. The main use of bacteria in our day-to-day life is the yogurt and the cheese. Yes, you guessed it right. Yogurt and cheese are actually made by bacteria. So, this was all for today. We will be ending up our session here. I want you all to kindly solve the worksheet which is attached with this video. And if you have any questions or problems related, you may ask me anytime. Thank you so very much for listening. Take care and Allah Hafiz.